What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. This one is disheartening to say the least. This is Tracy Nix, and she is a grandmother um whose children should never be left in her care. Tracy Nix is charged with aggravated manslaughter of a person under 18 and leaving a child unattended, unsupervised in a motor vehicle, causing great bodily harm. This happened on November 1st of 2022 in Hardee County. She is currently incarcerated and she is waiting to be sentenced. It is scheduled for April 3rd of 2025. This case seemed at first, before I knew the elements that weren't allowed to be brought into this case, amazed me at great lengths at that. Tracy Nix, this isn't the only child that has died on Tracy Nix watch. Because in 2021, her 16-month-old grandson was in her care and she fell asleep and he wandered outside and he drowned in the retention pond behind her house. Now that was not allowed to come in to trial. But we will touch on that in a little bit. So, who is Tracy Nix? What led her to now being a convicted felon? She is a former school principal. We went over her charges. I believe she was in the school system for 25 plus years. Retired. I believe her husband was retired as well. I could put a bunch of fancy schmancy words all around it, but here's the reality. Tracy Nix left her granddaughter in her SUV that was parked inside of her, I believe it was inside her garage, unless I'm thinking of a different case. Either way, it is hot here in Florida pretty much 24/7. I say that in today's actually a cool day. It is hot in Florida, and during the summer, when I say it's hot, it is so hot that an animal shouldn't be left outside for too long. It is immensely hot. Sometimes so hot that we have central AC upstairs and downstairs, and we got to put a window unit in the bedroom at night because it's so freaking hot upstairs. So a 8-month-old baby, her urial shock is the victim here. And this is the defendant's granddaughter. Her daughter's daughter. And Uriel died November 1st of 2022 after the 8-month-old was reportedly left in the back seat of Nix's Lexus SUV for several hours after the former principal returned from a lunch at Beef O'Brady's. Apparently, I watched some of this trial when it was live months and months ago, and normally the mother of Uriel would take the baby everywhere she went. And she got, I believe it was like a last minute hair appointment that she was able to get for herself. Her and her husband owned their own business from what I've gathered. And she wanted to take a little time for herself. So she got this hair appointment, asked her mom last minute if she could take the baby with her. She knew that her mom had, even though she's retired, she was very active in the church group. I think she was meeting with the prayer group or something with her church. And then they were going to lunch, something of that sort. She agreed, said, yeah, I'll take the baby. And the friend, one of Tracy Nix's friend that was with her at the lunch, testified that she had the car seat. She had, very attentive to the baby, all of that. But this was kind of, I guess, out of the norm. The mother of Uriel always had the baby, and I believe it was her son that was also killed in Tracy's care. So it would make sense to why she was very hesitant, rightfully so, to leave another one of her children in her mother's care. According to reports, Nix and her granddaughter reportedly left the restaurant around 1 p.m. to return to her home. The defendant said she parked the car in the yard, forgot the victim, was in the back seat, and proceeded to go inside the house and talk to her dog and play the piano for a long time. Those are her words, for a long time, because she had a piano lesson coming up that Thursday. I think she also taught piano. The day that Uriel died, Tracy told a detective that after she drove home from lunch with friends, she just forgot about the baby in the back seat of her SUV, which immediately when I was watching this trial, while it was live, I was like, okay, this was before I knew anything about her, about another grandchild of hers prior dying on her watch. I was like, okay, maybe she has Alzheimer's, dementia, something of that, some kind of memory judgment, lapse of judgment, whatever, and just hasn't been diagnosed with it. Because, I mean, 2 grandbabies, 2 children died on this woman's watch. And then my mind is going to, okay, does her and her daughter have some kind of like underlying like toxic relationship where she's just like an evil grandmother? That's just how my brain works, okay? It wasn't until one of her grandsons arrived that all of a sudden it came across her head that Uriel had been in the SUV all afternoon. Now, being someone, I have a horrible memory. I am one of those people that I walk into a room and I'm only 34, but as a recovering alcoholic, as I do take medications, psychiatric medications that can kind of mess with my memory at times. But also Alzheimer's and dementia runs really deep in my family. So there's a part of me, and my grandmother died of stage 8 Alzheimer's and she had dementia. So the memory like all of that kind of hits home for me because I'm like, oh, I want to believe that this woman had some sort of memory impairment, because who could just, it doesn't make sense. Like, is she on medication that's making her, I don't know. I needed more. It did not make sense. So temperatures that afternoon reached 90 degrees Fahrenheit. A medical examiner determined Uriel died from hyperthermia, which is also you're excessively hot, as a result of being left in a hot car for several hours. Uriel is the second grandchild to die under Tracy's care, or lack thereof. Like I was saying earlier, this is the second baby to die in her care. But see, the judge ruled Ezra, which is the first baby that died in her care, her first grandchild that died in her care, Ezra's death could not be mentioned during the trial for Uriel's death. Because we know that if that were to be mentioned in this trial, this woman would never probably see the light of day. The jury deliberated for 2 hours, 10 minutes, and 54 seconds before they reached their verdict. So let's go ahead and get into that verdict.
If my foreperson would raise their hand and hand the verdict to the bailiff. All right, defense, please rise. Mrs. Nix, please rise. All right, we're going to go ahead and publish the verdict.
In the Circuit Court of the 10th Judicial Circuit of Florida in and for Hardy County, State of Florida versus Tracy Howard Nix, case number CF 22-000-A000-XXW. Verdict form. We, the jury, find as follows as to count one of the charge. The defendant, Tracy Howard Nix, is not guilty. We, the jury, find as follows as to count two of the charge. The defendant, Tracy Howard Nix, is guilty of leaving a child in a motor vehicle in excess of 15 minutes, causing great bodily harm.
Don't read anymore.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Okay. So I think I went ahead and played the verdict. Kind of how I record these is a little choppy, so sometimes I'll forget. Here's a perfect case. I'm not forgetting a kid though. Sentencing is scheduled for April 3rd. So we're coming up on that here shortly. She was found not guilty on count 1, aggravated manslaughter of a child, but she was found guilty on count 2. And she was out on bond or bail. I think that's the same thing, right? And they revoked that, obviously, and took her in. I have so many different feelings about this because there's parts of me that want to, in a sense, be like, why would you leave your child with the same person your other child was killed? You know, they were in the hands of her. So I do question that, but I do understand in a sense of like, I understand trying to, when the mom said, when they ruled her son's death an accident, that she kind of held on to that and was like, okay, I can still she can still be a grandma. She wanted her mom to be a part of those kids' lives. Not at the expense that it took. And I'm sure that is immensely difficult to get over. But what are your thoughts on this case? Sentencing's coming up, like I said, April 3rd. We will see what's happening. She actually was in the news just recently for being sextorted in the jail. So I was reading something about that. I think it was yesterday I was reading about it, but leave your thoughts on this case below. Would you leave your kid unattended with the person that was responsible for the death of one of your children prior? And what do you think her sentence should be? Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you aren't, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.